What is going on, everybody? As most of you know, I have used the Surface Pro 7 pretty much since it first came out in one form or another, be it my original i3 model or the i5 model that I wound up with a little bit later on. And I've really enjoyed my time with the Surface Pro 7. I really like the form factor, I like the keyboard, I like the screen. A lot to love about the OSP7, as of course the Surface Pro 8 looms large on the horizon. Well, as of late, I've actually been using a different device as my laptop of sorts, and that device has been the Samsung Galaxy Tab S7, because I recently got a hold of Samsung's official keyboard folio style case for that S7, which basically turns it into a Surface Pro 7 clone. Now, here a lot of you guys already saying, but Shane, you're comparing Windows to Android. Clearly, Windows is going to be superior when you're using this thing like a workstation of any sort. Well, if you enable Samsung's DeX mode, things actually get pretty damn interesting. So before we go any further with this comparison, let's do a quick rundown of the Surface Pro 7. Obviously, mine has the keyboard, the type cover case, which is picked up over, the year, a little bit of dirt. That Alcantara material is cool and all, but, it's kind of fabricy and it's going to get a little bit dirty over time. The magnesium on the back has fared fairly well, although there are some scratches that are becoming apparent, which I doubt you're going to be able to see no matter what I do here. Maybe you can. There's a lot of little fine scratches there, but it's still magnesium. It still holds up well. You've got the Surface pin there that connects magnetically to the side. You have the proprietary charging port over here, the Surface connector. You have a USB-A and a USB-C port, which is fantastic. On the back side, you have the trademarked hinge, which is actually something you're going to see again here in a moment. And you also have a micro SD expansion slot. On the inside, obviously this thing, can be used as just a tablet, so the keyboard can be just pulled off and it connects via magnets and pogo pins. That is very cool. And then you just get a big screen on the inside with a webcam and IR there to do a quick face unlock, which you will see shortly as well. So what about on the Tab S7? Let's do this a little bit differently here. So I think most people, when they think of the Tab S7, they think of this. A very thin, very, premium looking Samsung tablet with two pretty okay cameras on the back here, especially when compared to what the Surface Pro 7 has. Now let's do the quick rundown here. You've got stereo speakers. You actually got two speakers on this side and two more speakers on this side. The audio quality is very, very good. And then you have the one USB-C port, which is used for both charging and all of your connectivity. So if you want to do some connectivity with this thing, flash drives and things like that, you're going to have to use a USB-C hub, which I've talked about in the past. You also do have the S Pen, which actually comes with it. And the S Pen is pretty good. It's very comparable to the Surface Pen in a lot of ways. And on this one, it attaches back there, and that is where it charges. And I didn't really like that at all because it constantly was getting knocked off of there. But when you buy Samsung's Folio keyboard case, part number one is this. This is a backing plate, and it connects magnetically. Let's just kind of line things up, drop it down, and that's it. It is now connected. And with this, not only is your pen now protected, you also have a rather easy to use kickstand, very, very similarly to what you have on your Surface Pro 7. But the fun does not end there, because you also have this keyboard which connects with magnets and pogo pins, and now you have a clone of the Surface Pro 7. And let's talk about some of these features real quick. How does the kickstand compare? I know this is connected magnetically, and your assumption might be that it is inferior to what is on the Surface, but guess what? It works just fine. It's actually quite rigid. You have to really push on this thing to get it to move, and it works really well. You do also, like on the Surface, there's a micro SD slot under it there. On this one, you're going to pop out a SIM tray, and there is micro SD expansion through that. And then as for the keyboard, let's start with Samsung, because that is what is already in my hand. It's pretty good. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's the most amazing keyboard in the world. It isn't. The trackpad is just okay. I don't love the way that it feels, but it works fine. It's somewhat clicky. The keyboard has decent travel. I think typing on this is actually better than I expected. It's better than the Chromebook Duet. it's a pretty damn good keyboard. However, in slim keyboard cases, I still think that the type cover is still the best around. Trackpad is just smooth as butter, works beautifully well, and typing is about as good as it gets on this type cover when you're talking about something that is this thin. It's really, really good. So let's briefly talk about these speakers here. I think we kind of need to do a speaker test here. So on the S7, this is at 50% volume. Let's bring the microphone overhead here. It is directly above this. You can't really see it because of the angle. Trust me, it is right above the S7. I'm now going to play one of my own videos so that we get a good audio cue. Here we go. What is going on, guys? Okay, so that is at 50% volume. Now let's go ahead and boost the S7 to 100% volume. We'll hit it again. What is going on, guys? I have some exciting news from the wild and wonderful. Okay, pretty damn good. And now let's go over here. Let's actually move this out of the way so that we can get proper spacing. We'll get the same kind of audio. And we're going to now play the same video on here. What is going on, pretty guys? Similar at 50% volume. Let's roll all the way back, and now let's crank that volume to 100%. What is going on, guys? I have some exciting news from the wild and... So I'll just tell you from my ears, because it may be easier for me to hear, the S7 is definitely louder, it's punchier, and it's bassier, but the Surface Pro 7 is no slouch. You're going to be pretty happy with entertainment coming out of either one of these two sets of speakers. This is a front-facing webcam sample from the Galaxy Tab S7. Obviously, this is the video. This is the audio as well. And this is a sample from the Surface Pro 7 front-facing webcam, as well as the built-in microphone. So now let's do a quick camera angle change and do a quick look at the boot process and the software of both devices. Let's go ahead and boot up the Surface Pro 7, and you'll get a general idea of how fast that process is. It tends to boot relatively quickly, so you'll get an idea of that here in real time. And as we get to the login screen, the sign-in screen, you can either use a password, a PIN, or use that face unlock. So when that pops up, I will kind of lean out here and I will allow it to see my face and to unlock. It is looking for me now, it sees me, I am now signed in. That works very, very well. Let's do the same now for the Galaxy Tab S7. And of course, this is running Android, so it is starting up in that in the wrong orientation, you could say, but it will correct itself as it boots, obviously. And you could definitely say from this point that the Surface Pro 7 is booting considerably more quickly than what Samsung's device here is. All right, so let's go ahead and unlock the Galaxy Tab. And we are now in this startup animation. It is now intelligently understanding the keyboard is attached, so it is now launching Dex, which adds a little bit more to that process. And now we are in Dex here, and we are in Windows here. So at this point, the biggest thing I would point out that is something I say is in the favor of the Surface Pro 7 is the height of the screen. The width is very similar, but the Surface Pro 7 has more height in the actual screen real estate, and I do really, really like that. But let's say, you know, from there, what is the experience like in both of these? Well, obviously, with Windows here, you've got your Start button, which opens up your Start menu. You can pin apps and so forth. On the Galaxy Tab, the Search button is very similar, and it just gives you your list of apps. You're able to type and search through them, launch whatever you want to launch. So they're actually not all that different. You also have on the Tab, you've got a multitasking button. You've got a home button and a back button, which you don't really even have to use because swipe gestures still work just like an Android tablet. You can pin apps to your taskbar down below, just like on Windows. Down here you have a quick launch to your calendar, which works just fine. You can see there that I'm in a window, which can be drug around. It can be resized. Windows over there is doing some stuff. You can resize things and just like you're in, a regular Windows setup. You've got your quick settings there. You've got notifications. You've got a quick screenshot button, as well as volume access and the ability to launch a software keyboard, all right there on your taskbar. On Windows, to get rid of that, you have your notifications obviously on this full side panel with quick settings and everything all together. You've got a quick calendar widget, and then you have sort of status things like Wi-Fi and things like that there. So they are actually relatively similar. And let me show you here. Let's launch my web browser Brave on Windows. And let's navigate this to scaryifliteral.com, obviously. And now let's launch Brave over here. And let's go ahead and maximize this. And let's go to scaryifliteral.com there as well. You can get a general idea of the speed of these two things, right? This is more similar than different. And something I gave an advantage to here, having a taller screen. Well, over here, you have a 120 hertz screen. So you can't see this in this video, but trust me, this looks well, maybe you can see it in the video. The Galaxy Tab is way smoother scrolling than you have on Windows. And that is true from many different web browsers as far as I have experienced. Let's do a quick website loading test. And I'm not taking the time to clear cache and do things like that. So this will be slightly unscientific, but it'll be enough to kind of, judge something here. So we're going to go to The Verge, which is a relatively heavy website. And look, not a massive difference here in terms of the speed of actually web browsing. So if all you're doing is doing some web browsing, this is pretty damn good. Here's where this gets pretty interesting to me. Let's go ahead and minimize that. And you see I've got this empty gap here. Well, let's launch Twitter because this is an Android tablet. So I can launch the full Twitter app and have that kind of side-by-side there. And I can move this around. I can resize it. I can do whatever I want with it. I can actually take apps and I can slide them to the side and get that side-by-side snap thing just like you get on Windows. It's actually really, really similar. But the difference is here, there may be an app you can use in the Windows Store or something like that to do Twitter, but at the end of the day, the Android app is just going to be better. You can resize that there, and you can drag this over and resize that there. Now you've got Twitter side by side with your web browser. And yes, of course, the Microsoft Store does exist for Windows, but I don't think I'm going to make a huge argument here, a big shocking argument that the Google Play Store has more stuff in it than Microsoft's store. You've got Minecraft here. Well, guess what? You've got Minecraft there as well. You can play it just the same. You've got Microsoft 365 apps here. Well, guess what? I can go launch Microsoft Word and all these sorts of things, have Android apps as well, and they all work really, really well, actually. Here's another use case that I think is pretty interesting. Let's launch my web browser. Let's hit my search button, and then let's launch Pokemon Go. What other device would allow you to be doing something on your web browser or whatever while you are playing Pokemon Go, just as it is on your phone, on the same device, simultaneously? To me, I understand that this is maybe a niche thing, but I think that it demonstrates, pretty well how different this device sort of is than this Windows device. My damn Slowpoke ran away after one attempt. What a ripoff that was. So one difference here on the keyboard as well is that with the Surface, you can actually have it either flattened out or propped up at an angle. On Samsung's Galaxy Tab, that is not an option. And since earlier I did show you the face unlock here, let's do the same here. So first off, I'll show you the fingerprint unlock. Does work really well. But now let's actually use the face unlock. And that did work okay. I do notice that with Samsung's device, I do need to be a little bit closer for it to do it, whereas with Windows, the Surface device rather, I can be pretty far away. Honestly, at the end of the day, This is going to come down to what your needs are. Might there be an app like Photoshop that isn't properly supported on Android? That might be the reason you're going to go with the Surface device. Are there some of you out there that do things that you can only do on Windows that this is going to completely disqualify you from using this Android tablet as your only laptop or workstation? Absolutely there are. However, that's not most people, and most people could 100% get by using the Tab S7 with this keyboard cover as their only laptop and miss out on almost nothing. And in fact, by having this Android app support, you've got something that Windows just can't compete with right now, and that is a massive catalog of apps that run beautifully on this device. The most important apps for most people have Android versions. In particular, Word document kind of PDF editing sorts of things are going to work pretty well on the Tab S7. And if media consumption is something that you're considering as being potential use for this thing, it's really good at that. The battery life is also better on the Tab S7. And when you look into the price, you're looking at about $100 cheaper to get the Tab S7 with the keyboard and all the stuff I showed you versus the Surface Pro 7. So guys, don't get me wrong, I still really love the Surface Pro 7, but the biggest takeaway for me is that this Samsung Android tablet with DeX is shockingly comparable to the Surface Pro 7. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this fun little comparison video that's maybe a little bit silly, but kind of interesting to me at least. Thanks so much for making it to the end of the video, as that does help me out tremendously. If you want to help out even further, check out scaryifliteral.com for a donation page, or head over to our Flatter page. Both of these can be found in the description down below. Stay tuned for more content just like this, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.